Welcome back. In case you've missed previous talks on Economic Chat, Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman, you can, of course, go to economist.com.na and find all of them, because once you get to that website, you'll get hooked, because we learn every day, and I am amazingly shocked at what I'm learning right now. But Mr. Daniel Steinman, you need to just continue this conversation so that I can probably make peace as we go. We are talking human wellness. There's this element of, everything that happens in your country. We think that, no, it's just the mental health that we need to look at, but there's also the human wellness aspect of it. So can you explain to the listeners how human wellness plays a role in the economy?
Elsabe, it all comes from the debate over GDP. And this debate is not new. It's been carrying on for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah.
And as the way that we measure GDP became more refined, that is, and I'm talking about the last 20, 15 years, that is when leading economists worldwide started realizing GDP tells you something about the macroeconomic side of a country. But it doesn't tell you about the wellness of those people living in that country.
Yeah.
And there's a very big debate in IMF circles about how appropriate GDP is as a measurement, as a statistic. And not that it is unreliable, but does it really give an indication of how well you and I are doing in our economy, even if the whole economy is doing well? And that is why lately, and I'm talking about the last 5 years, you find very strong voices, even in the IMF itself, advocating that we need to change the way that we measure prosperity. In other words, on the macroeconomic side, we need to change the way that we measure the entire economy of a country, because we need to indicate what that measurement means for the normal population. And this is where human wellness comes into it. And I think one of the first things that has been realized over the last 10 years is that if you take the concept GDP per capita and you come up with this US dollars 6,400, it's one figure for everybody. And it's utter nonsense. There is no one universal measurement of prosperity that you can go and apply indiscriminately to every individual. And that is what GDP per capita is. It gives an average. If you take the big cake and you slice it up into 2 million pieces, every Namibian gets a little piece that is 60 plus 30. That's about 100,000 Namibia dollar. Now, immediately from that figure, you will see it's nonsense. And this is what, on the academic side, on the more formal side, the professors have started realizing that GDP or GDP per capita, that these are not good ways to reflect how well the people in a country is doing. And this is now what they have. You get a human advancement index, and you get a human wellness index, and you get all sorts of attempts in economics to try and design a scheme to measure economic activity. And you will immediately hear from the different words that I'm using that even the economists are moving away from trying to to measure the economy, because they realize it is never a good indication. So they are talking about economic activity, and by using that definition, economic activity, they're trying to reduce that concept to the individual level. Now here, I have to interrupt myself and say immediately, it's not easy. It is because you can't have 2 million different ways of measuring prosperity in Namibia, it'll lead to complete chaos. And you will not be able to talk to anybody else about are we doing good or are we doing not good. And this is actually what the whole debate is all about. Is the economy performing to the benefit of everybody, or is it performing only to the benefit of a few fat cats, or what they call a privileged minority? It's usually the type of words that they use in economics, although people would shy away from, but it's a privileged minority, And I mean, if you look at the Namibian history, and if you look at the national development plans and Harambee and everything, the ethos is to make the economy perform for everybody, not just for a few fat cats, you see. And I want to stop here today. Perhaps we can revisit this in another conversation. But the point I want to leave with the listeners is one that they must reflect upon. And this is why or how are we going to measure prosperity in a sense that you and I can relate to it? That's a mouthful.
And that is certainly the question that we will leave you with. So next time when Mr. Daniel Steinman comes back, we will definitely continue this conversation. And but just before we go, Mr. Daniel Steinman, I would like to know the GDP per capita is the one that also causes the debate around is Namibia a developing country or not.
Elsabe, the debate is mostly about whether we are a middle-income country or not. And GDP per capita, the official statistics say that we are most definitely a middle-income country. And if you go into any informal settlement, I will pay you $1,000 if you can convince anybody there that we are a middle-income country. We are, in their eyes, we are not.
Thank you for correcting me on that. But, that conversation and that debate is also still something that we continue having. But on that note, we will definitely come back next week and we will continue this conversation because we want to know. Yeah? From me, Elsabe Timinyani, and from Mr. Daniel Steinman, we say goodbye to you.